Hey guys, today we are talking about adding and subtracting rational expressions. So we're still talking about fractions. We're talking about fractions with x in it, but this is going to be kind of a difficult lesson. So take it slow, try our best. We're going to go over it more tomorrow. But today we're adding and subtracting these fractions, which, as contrary as it might sound, is actually a little bit more difficult than multiplying and dividing those fractions. The way it works is you must have a common denominator to be able to add fractions together. Okay? We must have a common denominator. So for instance, we must be counting the same thing. Here I have 1/2 and 3/2. So if I have 1/2 and I have 3/2, together I'm going to have 4/2. Notice how the bottoms don't add together and we're just adding the tops. The bottom is just what I'm counting. We're counting halves. And then once I have 4/2, I know that 4/2 equals 2 wholes. So 1/2 plus 3/2 equals 2 wholes. Now, the same idea works whenever we are doing other things like 1/2 minus 3/4. The thing is whenever I have 1/2 minus 3/4, I can't add and subtract those in the form that they're currently in because we're not counting the same thing. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to change them to have the same denominator. Now, we're looking for the least common denominator, so the smallest denominator that both of these can go into. So in this case, my common denominator is going to be 4. So we're going to try to change this 2 to a 4 and this 4 to a 4. Now, of course, this 4 already is 4, so I don't have to change this fraction at all. It's just 3/4. But to get this 2 to be 4, I need to multiply that 2 by 2. And so since I multiply the bottom by 2, we also need to multiply the top by 2. Okay? So to get from 2 to 4, we had to multiply it by 2. And so we need to multiply by 2 to the top as well. And so we're going to have 2/4 minus 3/4. And then our fraction is going to stay the same. We're still just going to be counting fourths, but we're going to subtract the tops. So 2 minus 3 is -1. So my answer is going to be -1/4. All right, same thing's true for this one. We have 1/3 and 1/2. We're just adding these two together. Now we need to find the least common denominator, the smallest number that both of my numbers go into here. And in this case, my smallest number is 6. 3 goes into 6, and 2 goes into 6. 3, to get from 3 to 6, I need to multiply by 2. To get from, and so we're going to multiply the top by 2 as well. So 1 times 2 is, of course, 2. Then to get from 2 to 6, I need to multiply by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 times 3 is 3. So now I have my two fractions. We're counting the same thing. 2/6 plus 3/6 equals 5/6. And that is my solution there. Now, this applies on these bigger fractions as well. The fractions that have x's in it, or pluses or minuses and everything else in it. So let's take a look at number 1. So first step, we're going to look and see what is the least common denominator between my two fractions. And in this case, we already have my least common denominator. These two are the same. And so my least common denominator is going to be 3x squared. Then we can talk about my undefineds. Well, since these are the same and there's no plus or minus, my undefined is just going to be x cannot equal 0. Then we're going to add these together. So 2 plus 1 is 3, so we're going to have a 3 on top and a 3x squared underneath. Now, if we get to this point and there's a way to simplify, we're going to simplify it. So we added across the top. We did not add the bottoms. And we got 3 over 3x squared. Now, if you'll notice, hey, this can simplify. Doesn't always. In fact, most of the time it doesn't. But in this case, it does. So I can cancel these two 3's out. And so we're just going to have 1 over x squared as my answer. All right, let's move on to number 2. So number 2, remember, first step is trying to find a denominator that both of these can go into. We look at our whole numbers and we look at my x's. In the case where we have to factor, sometimes we have to factor first and then see what my denominator is going to be. In this case, 2 and 7. Our common denominator for 2 and 7 is going to be 14 for both of these guys. And then we look at my variables. This one has an x squared, this one has an x. The smallest amount of x's that they both have in common is x squared. So this one's going to have an x squared, this one's going to have an x squared. So that is my lowest common denominator, 14x squared. Now, to get this 2x squared to be 14x squared, I needed to multiply by 7, okay? So we also need to multiply by 7 to the top. 7 times 1 is 7, so we get a 7 on top of this fraction. Then, to get this 7x to be 14x, I had to multiply by 2x. So I'm going to multiply by 2x to the top. 5 times 2x is 10x. Then I'm going to add these two together. Now, that's going to create one big fraction with 14x squared in the bottom, and then we're going to add the two numbers on top. Sometimes, like this one, they don't actually add together because this one is x's, this one is whole numbers. So we're just going to write them beside each other, and I'm going to go ahead and write my x in front. So I'm going to write 10x plus 7, and I can't simplify it any more than that, so that's my answer. All right, let's move on to my undefined. Once again, my undefined is the same. We just have our x's there, so my undefined is going to be x can't equal 0. All right, this next one, number 3. What we're going to need to do is we are going to find my GCF. And in this case, our GCF is going to be, the GCF between 5 and 25 is 25. It's 5 times 5 is 25. This one has an x squared and this one doesn't. So over on both of these, we're going to need to write an x squared. This one has y, this one has y squared. So the largest number of y's that we have is y squared. So this is my GCF between the two of them. Now, to get from this to here, I had to multiply, to get from 5 to 25, I had to multiply by 5. To get from x squared to x squared, I didn't have to multiply by anything. But to get from y to y squared, I had to multiply by 5y. So we're going to multiply by 5y to the top as well. 5y times 3 is 15y. And then we're going to do a similar thing to the other side. To get from 25 to 25, didn't have to multiply by anything. It already is 25. To get from y squared to y squared, didn't have to multiply by anything. But this one's missing an x squared, so we're going to multiply by x squared. Okay, now let's do this one. 6x times x squared is going to be 6x cubed. Now we add these two together. My GCF is going to stay 25x squared y squared. And then we're just going to rewrite this. These two cannot combine, so I'm just going to rewrite it with my 6x cubed first. So we're going to write it 6x cubed plus 15y, and that is our final answer. Okay? Because it won't simplify. So let's talk about, we already knew that our GCF was 25x squared y squared, and my undefined, well, we just have x's and y's on the bottom, so we're going to say x can't equal 0 and y can't equal 0. All right, let's move on to the next page. So once again, we're gonna add and subtract these rational expressions. And these ones are fancier. They have pluses and minuses in the bottom. So let's talk about some steps. First off, we need to find a lowest common denominator using only multiplication. I cannot add or subtract to create common denominators. Then we're going to rewrite each rational expression using the common denominator. Then we're going to simplify. In other words, add those together. And then once the expressions are combined, simplify if possible. Now, it's not going to be possible on all of them, but some of them it might be. So let's take a look at number 4. So number 4, we're going to add these two together. First off, find a common denominator. We're in luck, though. This one already has a common denominator, and that is n minus 2. Then, I am going to talk about our undefines. Since I have a common denominator of n minus 2 and n minus 2, we have an undefined of n can't equal positive 2. Then we're going to combine these. Now, I want you to pay special attention if you see a minus symbol. If we are minusing, we are not just minusing this 3n, we're minusing this whole thing. So we're instead going to be, it's going to be like n minus 3n plus 1. Because we're minusing that whole parentheses over n minus 2. Then we're going to combine like terms. N minus 3n is negative 2n. So we'll have negative 2n plus 1 over n minus 2. Okay? So whenever you're subtracting, make sure you subtract the entire second fraction. Let's move on to number 5. So number 5, we are going to first need to find a lowest common denominator. Mr. Martin, how can you find a lowest common denominator between these two? Well, it's quite difficult. That's why we're taking some extra time with this lesson. But all you have to do is factor everything you can. So this 2x plus 4, I can factor that, but you know what? Let's not factor it. Let's just be like, okay, these don't have anything in common. This 2x plus 4 and this x minus 2, absolutely nothing in common. But we can create one big common denominator between the two of them. My big common denominator, I'm going to write it as one big fraction, is going to be 2x plus 4 times x minus 2. We're just going to combine both of them together. If they have nothing in common, we're just combining them both together. Now, to get from 2x plus 4 to down here, I'm going to need to multiply by x minus 2. And that also means that I'm going to need to multiply the top by x minus 2. Okay? So, we're going to have 3 times x minus 2 minus, don't forget about that minus, well, to get from x minus 2 to down here, I need to multiply by 2x plus 4. So I'm going to multiply the top by 2x plus 4 as well. So we can write that out here. That we're going to minus 8 times 2x plus 4. And we've combined it to one fraction. And we've combined it to have the same common denominator. It's just we have to think, to get from this fraction to that denominator, what do I have to do? So once we are here, we are going to simplify. We are going to FOIL or distribute and then combine like terms. So we're going to go 3 times x and 3 times negative 2. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Minus negative 8 times 2x is 16x. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. All of this is over our common denominator of 2x plus 4 times x minus 2. Then, last step, combine like terms. All right, so we're going to, last step, combine like terms. 3x minus 16x, these are like terms, is going to give me negative 13x. Negative 6 and negative 32 is going to give me negative 38. So that's what's on top. On bottom, we're just going to leave it in parentheses. All right, so there are our two parentheses, our least common denominator. We already decided what our least common denominator is. It is 2x plus 4 times x minus 2, and that tells me what my undefined is. The opposite of 2x plus 4, if we took 2x plus 4 and set that equal to 0, we would minus 4, get 2x equals negative 4, and we would get x equals negative 2. So that's our first one. X cannot equal negative 2. And our other one is x cannot equal positive 2. All right? And this is our simplified out answer. Okay, now let's try our last one, number 6. So number 6, we're first looking for a least common denominator. And in this case, these two do not have anything in common. So my least common denominator between the two is going to be 3x times 6x minus 7. That is my least common denominator, 3x times 6x minus 7. Now, to get from 3x to down here, I had to multiply by 6x minus 7. So, my first piece, we're going to have 6x minus 7 times 2x plus 1. And we're going to be minusing, draw my fraction a little bit longer, to get from 6x minus 7 to down here, we had to multiply by 3x. So we're going to multiply by 3x to the top here too. So that's going to be 3x times x plus 1. All right, so this is my top. We're going to reduce it. We're going to simplify it, okay? You know what? It might even be a good idea to just kind of take that off to the side and simplify it over on the side and then just rewrite our fraction. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take this top and I'm going to bring it out over here and rewrite it and then simplify it right here. So we have a 6x minus 7 times 2x plus 1 minus 3x times x plus 1. Okay, let's start off. Let's work this out and distribute it. We're going to go 6x times 2x is going to give me 12x squared. 6x times 1 is going to give me 6x. Negative 7 times 2x is negative 14x. And negative 7 times 1 is negative 7. And we're going to minus negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times 1 is negative 3x. Now we're just going to combine like terms. So 12x squared and negative 3x squared is going to be 9x squared. 6x, negative 14x, and negative 3x are going to combine to be negative 11x. And then I just have this negative 7 left over. So this is going to go back as the top of my fraction, 9x squared minus 11x minus 7 over 3x times 6x minus 7. Now, we can check and see if this is factorable, because if we can factor the top, then we can cancel things out. Now, we could try out our x and our plus. 9 times negative 7 is negative 72. We have a negative 11 on bottom. I mean, not negative 72, it's going to be negative 63. Sorry about that. We could think of two numbers that multiply negative 63 and add to 11. In this case, the only two numbers that I can think of would be 3 and 21. No, doesn't work. Nothing else works. So anyways, it doesn't factor. So that's just going to be our final answer. Doesn't factor, can't simplify out. All right, we have one last page to get through, and then we are finished. So let's start here at number 7. So once again, we're looking for a GCF. I mean, not a lowest common denominator. To find my lowest common denominator, we are going to need to first factor this. So we're going to factor that and see if I can find a lowest common denominator. So if I factor this out, that's going to be x plus 6 times x minus 2. Okay, so we were able to factor this out. So I'll have my x squared plus 3 on top, my minus here in the center, my 2x plus 3 over here. Now, it's obvious what our lowest common denominator is. My lowest common denominator is, well, they have these two in common. The only thing that this side is missing is an x minus 2. So I'm just going to redraw this with an x plus 6 times x minus 2 is my denominator. And I'm going to make this a little bigger, my big old fraction. I can just rewrite this x squared plus 3. We're going to just be minusing this x squared plus 3 here. But to get this x plus 6 to down here, I'm going to need to multiply by x minus 2. So I'm going to need to multiply the top by x minus 2 as well. I'm going to go ahead and work that out. X minus 2 times 2x plus 3. Let me take that out over here and work it out. We're going to go x minus 2 times 2x plus 3. So we're going to go x times x is 2x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Combine like terms here in the center, and we get 2x squared minus x minus 6. And that is going to be my first part here. 2x squared minus x minus 6. And all we're going to do is we are subtracting x squared plus 3. So let me rewrite this. If we're subtracting x squared minus plus 3, that means we're going to be subtracting this x squared. But that also means that I'm going to be subtracting this 3. So now, all I need to do is combine like terms. We got our final answer. So, 2x squared minus x squared is 1x squared. Negative x, nothing else over here, so that's negative x. Negative 6 minus 3 is negative 9. And all of this is going to be over x plus 6 times x minus 2. Okay? Now, we can check and see, can I factor my top to be able to simplify? And the answer is no. It doesn't factor, so that's just going to be my answer. Okay? All right. Last question, number 8. We have 3 fractions. I know it sounds insane. First off, we're going to factor out this x squared minus 9. This x squared minus 9, I can factor that to be x plus 3 times x minus 3. So you can see that we have this in common. So when I draw out my new fractions with my new common denominator, I'm going to want each one of my fractions to have a common denominator of x plus 3. X plus 3 times x minus 3. Because that includes everything. Okay. Alright, so we're going to be able to combine these fractions, but now let's figure out what the top should look like. Well, to get from this to this, I didn't have to change anything, so that's just going to stay 8x on top. However, to get from x minus 3 to here, I had to multiply by x plus 3. So we need to multiply this top by x plus 3 as well. So we're going to have x minus 7 times x plus 3 on top here. Then, to change this 1, remember 1 is just 1 over 1. To change that 1, to get from 1 to this, I had to multiply by x plus 3 times x minus 3. So I also need to multiply the top by that. So this fraction is just going to be x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now we can combine it to be one big fraction. So I can rewrite this as one big fraction where we're just adding the stuff on top. So we just have an x plus 3 times x minus 3. But before I add up the top stuff, let's simplify all of this. So let's start off and let's simplify this x minus 7 and x plus 3 by multiplying it out. So let's take that off to the side and let's work this out. We have x minus 7 times x plus 3. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. Combine the center two numbers, we get x squared minus 4x minus 21. And that's going to go in the center here. So we'll have 8x plus this became this. So we'll have x squared minus 4x minus 21. And then this, we can work that out too. We can make this x plus 3 times x minus 3. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Combine my like terms there in the center, and we get x squared minus 9. So that's going to go on the end here. We're going to go plus x squared minus 9. All right, now let's combine like terms. X squared and x squared are going to combine to be 2x squared. 8x and negative 4x are going to combine to make 4x. Negative 21 and negative 9 are going to combine to be negative 30. And all of this is going to be over x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now, we need to check and see, can I factor this? Can I factor this 2x squared plus 4x minus 30? The answer is maybe. Let's see here. So, let's take this off to the side. 2x squared plus 4x minus 30 has a GCF of 2. So it's going to be 2 times x squared plus 2x minus 15. Oh, it does look like I can factor. It's going to be 2 times x plus 5 times x minus 3. So I can factor this top to be 2 times x plus 5 times x minus 3, and that's over x plus 3 times x minus 3. So I can factor this. I mean, I can simplify it now. My undefined values are x cannot equal negative 3 or positive 3. Those are the opposites there. Then we simplify it. These two cancel, and my final answer is 2 times x plus 5 over x plus 3. Listen, guys, I know that's like the difficultest and weirdest lesson you've ever seen. Rewatch it step by step. Try your best on the homework. We're going to review it and go back over it more tomorrow. Okay? Just try your best. Remember, you can find your answers and some help on GoFormative. Okay? All right. I hope this has been some help to you. Try your best. Have a great rest of your day.